So I want to be awesome like you, Mike, but I have some trouble with you got Xeno Crisis. You bought Xeno Crisis Nintendo 64 version.
Yes.
Um, and I received somehow a RAW of that to try and set up on my Super Console X, which is not noted for its Nintendo 64. And I've continued to tank on it. So I've really not had much of an experience with Nintendo 64 Xeno Crisis beyond I had some try. It was awkward on my Super Console X, as most Nintendo 64 experiences are. So now there's going to be a Game Boy Advance version, which is what we're talking about tonight. Um, so you've been tuned into this a little bit better than me. So my main interest is I'd sure like to have a good version of Xeno Crisis on my Super Console X. So yes, one question is, do you think this will be that the Game Boy Advance version of Xeno Crisis? And two, because unlike the console tycoon that you are, you've got nearly every device either directly or closely recommended. I don't have anything to play Game Boy Advance games on, so I'm gonna need a Game Boy Advance ROM at some point in time. So, is this only gonna be? So my questions are: is it worth it? And if it is worth it, is it gonna be physical cartridge, ROM, or both?
So this is a physical cartridge that they're offering pre-orders for. So for anybody who doesn't know, Xeno Crisis is an arcade style shooter that draws heavily from the Alien franchise and its influence, and Smash TV. It's kind of a combination of those with that dual stick shooting style with it. It's super, super fun. Really great game. It was developed for Genesis, which makes sense. If you're going to do a retro style game, Genesis had for the time a very fast processor, which led to its extremely long shelf life. A lot of people think of Genesis as being, going head to head with Super Nintendo, when in reality it came out years before the Super Nintendo. It was actually going up against the NES at the time that it came out. It's just they kind of future proofed themselves to a certain degree. And it makes sense that it came out for that. I think the only problem you would run into with the Genesis version is the control layout isn't perfect for that unless you have like an arcade stick kind of situation going. But if you're using the regular Genesis controller because you have to shoot in different directions, I could see where that would be a little more cumbersome. It's been released on just about every retro console at this point, though, that you can play on. It's on Neo Geo, it's on Saturn, it's on GameCube, physical versions of them, and they've started putting out the ROMs as well that you can purchase. This is going to be a physical copy. I believe if you pre-order, it comes with the ROM, and then it seems like they offer the ROMs at some sort of a price point in their store after the fact as well. I absolutely love the Nintendo 64 version because not only does it look fantastic, of course, because it has even more horsepower than the other versions that have been coming out up until this point. You get tons of extra voice samples and cool little details and things like that. Because again, one of the things with this game is, for the most part, all the different versions look very similar on a surface level because they're all retro arcade style games. It's more in the details where the versions are different, and I would imagine very much so in the controls. The Nintendo 64 controller actually is amazing for this. I'm still back and forth on whether or not I like the Nintendo 64 controller, but for Xeno Crisis, it's perfect because your yellow arrow buttons become your directional shooting. So it's very easy. I would imagine that would translate to, PlayStation, Super Nintendo, and things like that with that sort of cross of buttons. That would work extremely well with that. So that's the only thing where I'm excited about Game Boy Advance port of it because I can still play it on my Retron, so I could get a physical cartridge of it if I wanted to. Uh, I'm not sure how it's going to control though with the Game Boy Advance layout. That's the only thing. Like I'm kind of spoiled now playing it on Nintendo 64, where those controls are just so easy, and it's a hard game. So adding additional difficulty with a cumbersome control, I'm not sure that I'm excited about that part of it.
Yeah, the good news is I've got it on CoinOps X, so I can play it on my Legends Ultimate, the arcade version. So that'll, that's my current Xeno Crisis access path. So but yeah, it does look good. Like I said, I've kind of fought my 64 deployment, so I may go back and see what I did wrong and try and correct it. But I I gave up. I gave up. Maybe I gave up too soon, but I gave up. So the
Yeah,
next
and
one.
I obviously it's cool to be able to. The reason I bought a physical copy, not just a ROM, and put out the extra money, not just as a collector, but it's cool to be able to support what they're doing as far as just making games for systems like Nintendo, especially Nintendo 64. You really don't see a lot of Indian homebrew games and stuff like that for it. There's very few, it seems. So it's really cool to see. Hopefully, other companies will do that. I mean, you do see a fair amount of things for Game Boy. Speaking of which, there's a game called Slapdash that you guys should check out. Speaking of Indian homebrew developers, starring this gentleman Kelly Tool right here, and he's also on a hot sauce, I hear. But I digress.
So I hear. I hear that too. Hearing that a lot lately. So yeah. Yeah. And a new well, I guess actually two versions of Slapdash already. Check out, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell so you know new stuff comes out. Check out any of our descriptions. There's always a ton of links to our merch store. Lots of fun stuff out there. No hot sauce yet, but we'll see what happens with that. Um, but yeah. So the now I'm all messed up. I was in my spiel and all of a sudden my face on a hot sauce thing shows up. Check out Hard No, the world's shortest podcast, getting shorter and shorter the less time I want to talk to Mike these days. So, but that's less than a minute long, totally free, delivered to your YouTubes daily. Check that out. Check out the merch store and leave us a comment on this. Are you a Xeno Crisis fan? If you are, do you have a preferred platform? You with Mike that the 64 version's a good way to go? You interested in the Game Boy Advance version? So we'll include links to how you can go check, that out as well. Um, and but then you go to our website, which the links again are included in our description all the time. You'll find Bog Panda Vision, which is our software leg
Division.
division of the Bog Panda Empire. Which at some point I'm clearing out, I'll handle it offline, but there appears to be like a loud and loaded platform too that's offering games that should be, I feel, exclusive to Bog Panda Vision. But I'll, as long as those clowns at Loud and Lotus give us a wave and say, brought to you by the people at Bog Panda Vision, I probably can be talked out of not bringing suit. But you can go to our site or some crappy Loud and Loaded site and download the ROM totally free of Slapdash for the Game Boy and Slapdash Spooky Season for the upcoming Halloween times. There's a holiday version coming out and a Game Boy Color version coming out. I covered most of my torment for the next couple months
For now.
for now. Super.
There's always, you should know, there's always more Slapdash in the works. We got to get Kelly up there. I'm not saying we can beat Mario with 200 plus games. I feel like we got a late start. We should have started on that a long time ago to
Yeah.
get there. But I want to get you on as many platforms as possible. Definitely at least double digit numbers, higher double digit numbers. And whatever unique merchandise we can get your face on, I'm on board. And so is Kelly.
Yeah. Highlight counter. The I'm kind of contributing to my own demise on this too, but I am slowly. I could do what Mike does, which is, do I really care? Are the things that I'm doing really important? Do I want to put in the time and effort to learn how to do it? Or do I just want to go find a pile of money and throw it at people and say, do this thing for me, make a hot sauce, just got to do that instead of making the hot sauce himself, kind of going through the work. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm a kind of guy that when I go after these things, I put in the work. And so I'm putting in the work to become, a hot growing job opportunity out there, an Atari 2600 game coder. So I am learning how to code a 2600 game, and I will try to create a basic version of Slapdash for the 2600. So
I can't wait. I'm super excited about that because so whether you, I don't know if you guys realize this, I think I mentioned it on a previous episode, but my idea originally was a slapdash, or at that time I didn't even know for sure what it was going to be, but a game with Kelly. My original idea was to make a 2600 game. And then as I started to look into it, I was like, that looks like a lot of work. What's the easiest platform to make a game for?
it's not the 2600. I'll tell you that right now.
No.
But I think, all I've got to do is eventually master one kind of an infinite run, how that'll work, a jump. And I can only have, I think it's 3 sprites active on a screen at any point in time. So I have to work that out. But actually, Slapdash doesn't seem to press that too much. So I think I can do that. You're going to likely lose elements of parallax scrolling on the 2600.
I would imagine.
And I'm going to imagine the sound's not going to be quite the beautiful symphony that the Game Boy can give you, but step at a time.
I do have to
Working,
say, your song translated really, really well to Game Boy.
it's not bad, recognizable, so it looks
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, that's not going to happen on 2600. It's going to be, it'll be. I guess I'll make it an original, but it's not going to be bog on because I don't know. I can see if I can at least get the kind of initial dun dun dun. I can get at least those beats in there, but yeah, there's not a lot of range on the 2600 for for a soundtrack. So we'll do what we can. Anything else, sir?
No, I think that covers it. I mean, you guys should like, subscribe. Where else are you going to get free games and great hot sauce?
Bog Panda.